So Marcus Williams finally broke his silence, and let me tell you, he didn't hold back. Anyone paying attention last season could tell that something wasn't quite right between him and the Baltimore Ravens. The vibe was off, the energy was different, and the way things played out down the stretch confirmed what many suspected. But now, with Marcus speaking publicly about it for the first time, we're getting a glimpse behind the curtain, and what he revealed makes it clear that the issues ran deep. It wasn't just about missed tackles or busted coverages. According to Marcus, the breakdown was rooted in something far more damaging: poor communication from the top down. And when a player uses that phrase, from the top down, you know exactly who he's pointing the finger at: the coaching staff, leadership, the people calling the shots and deciding who plays, who sits, and how situations are handled. Marcus sat down with Terron Armstead and gave a brutally honest interview that sheds light on everything that went wrong during his final year in Baltimore. And before we even dive into the X and O's, the numbers, or the speculation, let's just acknowledge something real quick. Marcus Williams is still a free agent. The Ravens cut him months ago, and since then not a single team has stepped up to sign him. No workouts, no tryouts, no deals. That speaks volumes. This isn't just about the media writing him off, this is the entire league taking a step back. And it's hard not to wonder, is it all just about his on-field play, or is there more to the story? According to Marcus, it's definitely the latter. He admitted there were things he could have done better. He owned up to that. But what really seemed to weigh on him was the fact that no one from the organization ever clearly explained what exactly he did wrong. That's what stung the most. Being benched is one thing, guys get benched all the time in the league. But getting benched with no explanation, no sit down, no clarity, just you need a break. That messes with your head. Imagine playing this game at a high level for nearly a decade. You start in New Orleans, you do your thing, you earn a reputation as a ball hawk with over 20 interceptions, and then you land a massive 5-year, $70 million deal with the Ravens. That's a big-time contract. That's a franchise putting their trust in you, counting on you to be a cornerstone in the secondary. And then a couple seasons later, you're suddenly sidelined without a real reason. That's not just frustrating, it's demoralizing. And he said it clearly, you don't just get bad overnight. He's not wrong. Players don't go from elite to liability in the blink of an eye. There's always more context, more nuance, and for Marcus, part of that context was a complete shift in the defensive coaching structure. The Ravens lost Denard Wilson, who was crucial to the secondary. He left for a coordinator role in Tennessee. Then Mike McDonald, who had been the defensive mastermind, was replaced by Zach Orr. That's a lot of change in a short amount of time, and in the NFL, continuity matters. Now Marcus never threw anyone under the bus by name. He kept it professional, which honestly you gotta respect. He didn't single out a coach, a teammate, or even mention a specific play. But he made it clear that the miscommunication didn't start on the field, it started in the meeting rooms, in the locker room, and with the people in charge. He said he never got real feedback. If he was making mistakes, he wanted to know which ones. What coverages was he busting? What responsibilities did he miss? But he never got those answers. And that ambiguity only made things worse. He talked about plays breaking down and how on TV the average fan sees the result, but not the assignments. You see a receiver wide open downfield and you immediately assume it's the safety's fault. But Marcus made a great point: unless you know the coverage call, unless you were in that huddle, you don't know who was really responsible. And that's something that a lot of guys in the league have echoed before. The average viewer doesn't know if a corner was supposed to pass off a route, or if a linebacker was supposed to drop into coverage. And when the public doesn't know, someone has to take the blame. And more often than not, it's the guy closest to the camera. Marcus became that guy, the scapegoat, the fall guy. He even said it himself. And look, when a player refers to himself as the fall guy, that means he knows he took heat for something that wasn't entirely his fault. Whether it was a breakdown in scheme, a miscommunication, or just flat-out confusion, he ended up holding the bag. And that can damage a player's career, especially when teams are watching closely to see how you handle adversity. But even with all that frustration, Marcus said he never lashed out. Not once did he publicly criticize a teammate or a coach during the season. He said he kept it in-house, tried to stay focused, tried to keep his peace, because once someone takes your peace, they control you. That right there, that's some real mental toughness. He was hurt, no question, but he refused to let that turn into bitterness. He also talked about how he kept performing in practice, kept showing up, kept making plays even against the best quarterback in the league. He knows what he's capable of. He knows the kind of safety he is. And in his words, if he's not the best safety in the NFL, he's at least one of the best. That confidence, that hunger, it's still there, but he's also realistic. He knows the game. He knows how narratives form. Once a player starts speaking out, starts pointing fingers, starts naming names, the label of being a bad teammate can follow you forever. He didn't want that. He didn't want to be seen as a locker room cancer. That's why he bit his tongue. That's why he kept everything bottled up, because in this league, perception is everything. One wrong quote, one misunderstood interview, and you're suddenly toxic. That's why what he said in this interview matters so much, because even while airing his grievances, even while being clearly hurt by how things ended, he still showed nothing but respect to the organization. He thanked the Ravens, thanked the coaches, thanked the fans. He said he was grateful for the opportunity to play in Baltimore, and that it was a blessing to suit up for such a storied franchise. He even acknowledged that the Ravens changed his life financially. That deal, 5-year, $70 million, set him and his family up for life. But he also reminded everyone of what he sacrificed. He played through a dislocated wrist, came back and got an interception right after, played with a torn pec, no surgery, only missed a few games. He kept pushing, kept grinding, kept putting it all on the line for that team. And then just like that, he was benched. No explanation, no real feedback, just sidelined. And that part, that silence, is what seemed to cut the deepest, because it left him searching for answers. Was it his play? Was it politics? Was it just a decision made above his head? He doesn't know. And that uncertainty can eat at a player, especially a veteran, especially someone who takes pride in doing things the right way, watching film, practicing hard, being a leader. And that's another thing he emphasized. He's not flashy. He's not loud. He doesn't do the whole look at me routine, and sometimes that can work against a player. Fans might mistake quiet for careless. They might think, oh, he's not clapping back on social media, he must not care. But Marcus said the opposite. He cares deeply. He's competitive to the core. He wants to win. He wants to be great, but he does it in his own way. And that might be part of the reason why things spiraled. When you're not a vocal guy, when you're not constantly making noise, it's easy for coaches and teammates to overlook you. Easy to become a silent target when things go wrong. But Marcus made it clear, when the dust settles, when his playing days are done, he'll tell the full story. He'll lay it all out, but not while he's still trying to get back on the field, because again, he understands the business side. He knows teams are watching, teams are listening, and he's right to be cautious. Because whether it's fair or not, players who speak out often pay the price. They get labeled. They get passed over, and Marcus doesn't want that. He still wants to play, still feels like he's got something to prove. And judging by the way he carried himself during that interview, he just might get another shot. But it won't be easy. Teams are going to ask questions. They're going to dig. Why did the Ravens cut you? What happened behind the scenes? Were you a problem? Were you unhappy? And how Marcus answers those questions, how he continues to present himself, could determine whether or not he gets another chance. And honestly, based on everything he said, he's handling it the right way. He's telling his side, but he's doing it with class. No name calling, no blame games. Just honesty mixed with a whole lot of restraint. That's rare. And for teams looking for a veteran presence in the secondary, that could go a long way. Marcus Williams is at a crossroads. A few years ago, he was one of the most sought-after safeties in the league. Now he's fighting just to stay in it. But if there's one thing we've learned from this interview, it's that he's not giving up. Not now. Not ever. Now, one of the more powerful things Marcus Williams said during that interview was about how he wrote on his board every single week, "Never lose my peace." That simple sentence says a lot about where his head was during what had to be one of the most confusing and painful stretches of his career. While everything was shifting around him, his role, the team's trust in him, his own understanding of what was happening, he was clinging to something internal. Peace. Self-control. And man, that's not easy to do in the NFL, especially when your identity as a player is suddenly being questioned. He made it clear that the lack of communication wasn't just disappointing, it was hurtful. And that's a word that stood out. Hurt. You don't hear players talk like that very often. They'll say they're frustrated or upset, maybe even angry. But Marcus Williams said it straight up, he was hurt. That hits different. Because this wasn't just about playing time or public perception. This was personal. He felt betrayed. Like the investment he made in the team, his effort, his health, his commitment wasn't returned with transparency. And that's where this story really starts to speak to something deeper about life in the NFL. This league is brutal. One day you're the star free agent signing the big contract guy, the future of the secondary. A couple seasons later you're on the bench with no explanation, then cut, then unsigned. The fall is fast, and Marcus knows that. But what he also knows is that he did everything he was supposed to do. He wasn't late. He wasn't a distraction. He studied, practiced, played hurt. He didn't just want to collect a check, he wanted to win. He wanted to contribute, and still it wasn't enough. At least not in the eyes of the people making decisions. Now let's talk about how this all played out on the field. Because one of the key moments Marcus referenced was getting benched before the Tampa Bay game. Then coming back and playing well only to get benched again. And that's the part that seemed to confuse him the most. It wasn't a straight line. If he was underperforming, he could accept that. But getting benched, bouncing back with a strong game, then sitting again, it didn't add up. It felt inconsistent. And when you're not given a clear reason for that kind of back and forth, it's impossible not to take it personally. And it's not like Marcus was oblivious to his own performance. He said it multiple times: if he misplays, he'll own them. If there were things he needed to clean up, fine. But at least tell him, at least let him know what went wrong. Because without that communication, a player's left to guess, and that's what drives you crazy. When you're trying to do things the right way, but nobody's telling you what right even looks like anymore. He even compared it to a regular job. You're at work, been there for years, doing what you're told, staying consistent. Then one day your manager walks in and says you're done. Someone else is taking over. Naturally, your first reaction is going to be, why, what happened? But if that manager just shrugs and says you just need a break and leaves it at that, you're going to walk away. Feeling confused, angry, and yes, hurt, Marcus talked about how not being flashy worked against him. He's not the guy who's going to jump on Twitter and defend himself. He's not the player who's clapping back at fans or reporters. He's not showing up on podcasts every week trying to clear his name. And because of that, some people assume he doesn't care. That's the mistake. He does care a lot. He's just not going to compromise who he is to prove it. He said, I'm about my business. I do everything the right way. That's who Marcus Williams is. And he believes that should be enough. But the reality is, in this league, sometimes it's not. Sometimes being quiet, respectful, and low-key makes you an easy target. Because you're not going to fight back. You're not going to make noise. So people think they can pin stuff on you without any pushback. That's what Marcus believes happened to him. And it's not like he didn't think about speaking up. He said if he came out and started naming names, started pointing fingers, he'd immediately be labeled a problem in the locker room, a cancer. And that's the fastest way to kill your chances at staying in the league. So he chose silence, not because he agreed with what happened, but because he understood what was at stake. He even mentioned that once he's done playing football, he'll tell it all. He'll lay it out, explain what really happened behind closed doors. But until then, he's going to keep it quiet. And that decision right there, it tells you everything you need to know about where his priorities are. He's trying to get another shot. He's trying to keep that door open. So he's not going to jeopardize it by going scorched earth, even if part of him probably wants to. And through all of this, he keeps circling back to one message: I want to be a good teammate. That was his mantra. He didn't want to be a distraction. He didn't want to make it about him. Even when he felt like he was being mistreated, he didn't want to hurt the team. That's rare. That's not how most people would handle it, especially when millions of dollars and your professional reputation are on the line. But Marcus Williams handled it with grace, with patience, with peace. And for a guy who admitted that he's still hungry, still believes he's one of the best at his position, that says a lot. It takes strength to stay silent when the easy thing would be to lash out. It takes maturity to say, I was hurt, but I'm not going to let that define me. He also pointed out how fans and even coaches sometimes misinterpret emotion. Because he's not yelling on the sideline or showing frustration on the field, people assume he's passive. But he said that couldn't be further from the truth. He's overly competitive. He wants to win. He just expresses it differently. And that's something we all need to remember. Just because a player isn't screaming into the camera doesn't mean he doesn't care. And look, this situation with Marcus isn't just about one guy. It's about the system. About how quickly a player can go from franchise cornerstone to forgotten man. About how easily communication can break down in a high-pressure environment. About how careers can be altered not just by performance, but by perception. But even with all of that, Marcus ended the interview on a note of gratitude. He thanked the Ravens, thanked the coaching staff, thanked the fans. Said he appreciated the opportunity to be part of a great organization. He acknowledged how much the team did for him and his family. And he didn't say that begrudgingly. He meant it. You could hear it in his voice. That's the mark of someone who, despite everything, is still choosing to move forward. Still trying to find the next chapter in his career, still keeping his peace. Now let's be real. Some front offices might still be hesitant. They might see the quotes, the frustration, the comments about miscommunication and get cold feet. But others, the smart ones, they'll see a player who's been through adversity, stayed respectful, kept working, and still wants to prove himself. Because make no mistake, Marcus Williams wants to play. He's not done. He's not washed. He's not ready to ride off into the sunset. Not yet. He still believes in what he brings to the field. And if the right team gives him a shot, gives him clarity, gives him communication, he might just remind everyone of the kind of playmaker he used to be. That hunger doesn't go away overnight. Neither does that talent. Marcus Williams may be a free agent right now, but this interview made one thing clear: he's not going out quietly. He's not bitter, but he's not blind either. He knows what happened. He knows what went wrong. And now so do we. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In a stunning development that has sent shockwaves through the NFL community, whispers are growing louder that Lamar Jackson, the dynamic quarterback and face of the Baltimore Ravens, may be on the verge of departing from the franchise. Known affectionately as the Flock by Ravens fans, Baltimore's passionate supporter base is reportedly in disbelief as rumors swirl that their star player could soon don a new jersey. Jackson, who has electrified the league with his unique blend of speed, agility, and playmaking prowess, has long been the centerpiece of the Ravens' offense since being drafted in 2018. His remarkable ability to extend plays and break defensive lines has earned him an MVP award and cemented his status as one of the most exciting quarterbacks in football today. However, recent murmurs suggest that the relationship between Jackson and the Ravens might be reaching a crossroads. Sources close to the situation indicate that contract negotiations have been tense, with the two sides unable to find common ground on a long-term deal. Some insiders speculate that Jackson may be exploring opportunities with other franchises willing to build their offense around him, especially as the Ravens appear to be shifting their strategic direction. The possibility of such a high-profile trade or release would mark a seismic shift not only for Baltimore, but for the entire league. For the Flock, the news is difficult to digest. Jackson's electrifying plays have been a staple of their Sundays, and his leadership on and off the field has made him a beloved figure in Baltimore. Yet, the business side of the NFL often demands tough decisions, and the Ravens organization may be preparing for a future without their star quarterback. Speculation also rises around which teams could be contenders to acquire Jackson, with franchises in need of a game-changing signal caller reportedly lining up interest. As this story unfolds, the NFL world is bracing for an announcement that could reshape the league's quarterback landscape. While nothing is confirmed, the buzz surrounding Lamar Jackson's possible exit from the Ravens has already ignited intense debate among fans, analysts, and insiders alike. Will the Ravens part ways with their MVP? And if so, where will Lamar Jackson land? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the saga of Lamar Jackson and Baltimore Ravens is far from over. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the Flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.